Welcome to the Software People Stories. I'm Shiv.
I'm Chitra.
And I'm Gayatri.
We bring you interesting, untold stories of people
Associated with the creation
Or consumption of software-based solutions.
You'll hear stories of what worked,
and sometimes what didn't,
you will also hear very personal experiences.
and insights that would trigger your thoughts
And inspire you to do even greater things.
Before we jump into today's conversation, a special thanks to PM Power Consulting for encouraging and supporting this show right from the start. With over 1,000 person-years of collective experience, PM Power has helped many organizations, teams, and individuals chart out their own journeys of excellence and make progress. Thank you, PM Power. Now, let's move to today's episode. I continue my conversation with David G Ewing, the CEO of Motiv. I asked David about how he thinks AI-based approaches are likely to impact the customer experiences. He responds how this can be used as a powerful tool to improve customer experience. He also talks about his new venture, ContentLion, that helps companies centralize and manage their content. He touches upon aspects of data security and privacy. When I asked him about his personal practices, he shares some tips that help him stay focused and centered while also helping manage time. Listen on. Now, everybody talks about AI, right? And some of the stories that you shared just now is also about understanding the data, the context, and then being more probably responsive to customers. Probably long before this buzz about AI started happening. How do you think some of these AI or AI-enabled, AI-enhanced, now everything has to have an AI somewhere, going to impact the customer experience?
AI is amazing and terrifying at the same time, right? We are always asking ourselves, will we be relevant in 10 years, right? Will you just be able to tell an AI, hey, make a great customer experience happen for me, and that's all that needs to be done, and there will be no need for any of the things that we do? I don't necessarily think that's true, but definitely we recognize that companies who use AI are going to replace companies that don't use AI. And so there's not an hour these days that goes by without me using some kind of AI at work. I'm constantly using it and discovering it as a thought partner. In fact, I just met about 2 months ago another Austin thinker named Jeff Woods. I've got his book right here, The AI-Driven Leader. And really what Jeff taught me was a lot of ways to use AI as a thought partner, right? To really start to have the AI engine interview me and help me uncover my thoughts and ideas. So what does AI mean to customer experience? Well, it's certainly going to be a part of everything through the journey because it's just so scalable, right? From the moment someone is a prospect and they're trying to learn more, they're probably going to stop coming to company websites and they're probably going to start looking at their AI chatbot for recommendations, ideas, and advice, which means we have to find ways to educate the world's AI engines about our clients' products and services. So, we started a whole new company this year called ContentLion. And ContentLion is really about taking content and making sure that you have a centralized repository and that it is now AI organized so that when AI engines come crawling your websites or any other places where you have your mediums, it's easy for them to internalize and you have the best chance of being there at the very tip of the spear when a customer is doing research to try and figure out should they buy your product or someone else's. But AI is going to propagate all the way through. The most obvious ones are going to be in service, right? So one of the things Oracle is really excited about is the idea of proactive service. So imagine this, if you have equipment in the field and it's got Internet of Things monitoring on it, then Oracle's rationale is we should be able to be looking at that IoT set of stuff And we should recognize that you have a problem, right? Your generator number 3 is not behaving like the other generators. Before we even, wait for the customer to complain and call and say, hey, we have an emergency service requirement for generator 3, we should be dispatching the techs, right? Like we should have a proactive system that says, hey, we see that generator 3 is not behaving. We've already sent the technicians. That would be amazing, right? Let's not wait for customers to call in with problems to us. Let's be proactive and go reach out to customers and realize they have a problem before they even know they have a problem. That is kind of another spot where we think AI is going to be great. But the big bottleneck to all of this stuff is not actually the AI technology, it's the data that we're feeding into it. That is the problem, right? We've all seen AI hallucinate. We've all seen AI go way over its skis and tell us things that we know not to be true. But if we can get the data clean and train the AI on good data, just like a human being, if they make a sound decision based on data, it's a sound decision. If a human being makes a decision based on faulty data, well, it's not that their brain didn't work that day. It's that they had bad information to start with, and AI is no different. And so that's really where we see the big challenge is coming, is making sure that you get quality data everywhere. And quality data everywhere is hard to do. So that's the big trick.
Yeah. Okay. So I did have that curiosity question since you mentioned it on ContentLion. At least your website talks about replacing 100% of all of the Oracle content management with this. Did I get it right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah,
how
absolutely.
Yeah. So on one hand, when you're working so closely with Oracle and you tell them that I'm going to replace one of your functionalities or features with something that is better, how does that play?
Yeah, that's a great question, because on the surface that seems like treachery, right? Like, what are we, some kind of treachery?
Yeah.
No, we're actually the opposite of that. So here's the thing. Oracle has decided to exit the business. So they have announced to all their customers by the end of 2025, all instances of Oracle content management will be terminated. They've just decided it's not their core competency. They don't want to do it. They're out. Okay, I mean, everybody changes their product mix, and Oracle has done that here. So what we have done is we've said, hey, you have a bunch of customers out there who have been relying on this product. You are about to end of life this product. Would you be terribly upset if we became one of your new customers and built our own version of content management on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure? And we built a migration tool so that the customers who are about to lose their product have a new home. And they said, that's great. And they've been super supportive, because they decided they don't want to make a core competency out of content. I have a core competency in content. I believe that content will be extremely important to the future, and companies who want to centralize their video, audio, data, images, blog posts, press releases, product information, product literature. I mean, everything that you can imagine, if you could centralize that into one spot, organize it, and then publish it to your websites and your portals and your social media and your mobile applications and everything else, like that's the vision of ContentLion. And that was the vision of Oracle's content management product. So we're just we're basically, think of us as picking up the torch in a relay race. We're the next torch, and they've handed it to us, and we're running forward with their blessing to do that. So yes, no treachery involved, I swear. So
great. I thought if one did not know this and they're just looking at it from outside, suddenly it looks like the two are very different. Okay.
Right, yeah.
So the next question related to that is with ContentLion. Again, if I understood you right, it's about finding meaning in all the content that is stored, which means that you need to be a little more intrusive. In the sense, even if it is automated, at least understand what the content means, right? With all the concerns about, or the expectations on net data security and privacy and all that, was this a kind of a change in the whole magnitude of thinking, or compared to the OCX, the implementations or the kind of solutions that we are doing, which is more consultation driven probably, or solution driven, to probably a little more focus on the backend technologies.
Well, okay, so let's talk about the problem first. Like, what problems do companies have with their content? And really, the reality is that everybody understands intellectual property, right? Everybody understands it's tremendous. It's very hard to account for. It's hard to put on your balance sheet and say, this is what my IP is, although people try to do it. But one of the things I think people miss is how much IP is in their content, right? So if you have customer testimonial videos, is that IP? No, not in the sense of, you can't patent that, but is it incredibly valuable to have a series of customers raving about how great your product is and have that in a video that you can put everywhere? Yeah, that's really important. All of your blog articles, all of the things that you've done to establish your company as a knowledge leader, that's what builds trust with customers. And the problem with a lot of companies, even really sophisticated companies, is you say, hey, where's the video that went viral that we did last summer? Like, who has that? And they're like, oh, that's on Bob's, computer, or it's in the J drive somewhere. Let me go see if I can find it. Here it is. It was, it's some of the things that cause prospects to build trust and act, and nobody knows where the heck it is. So how do you reuse it? How do you take advantage of it? How do you make it easier to push that to all the right places that it needs to go? That is a huge problem for lots and lots of companies, and it's very costly to not have that translated, and especially as we become more global. Where's the version of that that's translated into the 7 languages that our customers speak? All these problems occur because people don't have a good way of centralizing their content and then distributing and publishing it. But then to your point, what about all of the important documents that describe how our product is made, our assembly diagrams? How do we make sure that the right people have those diagrams, but the wrong people do not? Because, publishing the Colonel's secret recipe on the internet is a bad idea, right? Everybody knows that. Coca-Cola has their recipe in a secret vault, and it's still, a trade secret all these years later. And, you don't want that kind of content getting out. So yes, at making sure that you have extremely careful control of your content and access to it is a big part of content management. So content in the right hands can be a wonderful, magical thing. And content in the wrong hands is, evaporated competitive advantage. So you have to be absolutely secure and clear with this. And so that means doing everything right. There are of course, all the technology standards for SOC 2, Type 2, and all the different things that you can do to be HIPAA compliant and GDPR compliant, and all that other, all those other long soup of acronyms. That's all good. But far, far more important than those fundamentals is making sure human beings don't make accidental mistakes. So what's an accidental mistake? Well, having an AI engine that could maybe get fed some of that material that it shouldn't have, and then it divulging some of those things just as part of its job, that's a problem, and so making sure that the content goes where it needs to be, but is protected from the places it shouldn't, that is a big part of the mission of ContentLion.
Probably segueing into something a little different. I noticed that you already have Motiv to run and ContentLion. And in addition, I also noticed that now you're very active in the Austin entrepreneur space, and you have your own website. I don't know what else. But how do you find time for all this?
Great question. I ask myself that every day, Shiv. I'm always like, how the hell did I do that today? So I would say this has been my journey in terms of that, is that it's been incremental, right? So for 15 years or so, all I did was run Motiv. That was it. I was CEO of Motiv, building Motiv. And really when I really got good at that job, which I was definitely not good at that job when I started, but founding and building that, I realized that once I started investing in the leaders and the winners in my company, the top people who could both had intent and impact, once they were in place, my I had to look at what are the things that only I can do that no one else in the company can do. And that list began to shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink. And so as a leader, I will tell you that is a little bit terrifying, right? Like, it's kind of nice to know that you're needed. We all need validation. But if you're going to lead something, you actually have to focus on making yourself completely useless, because the greatest company in the world would be run by someone who absolutely has made sure that every single thing that company can do can be done by someone else, to the point where they can do it so much better than the leader that you have to rely on those people. It's scary, but that was necessary. So step one was getting there with Motiv. Step two was I've been a member of the Entrepreneurs Organization, and I will tout that as being one of the most wonderful things, game-changing things in my life. Helped me see the problems that I had, because what I found was that most of the problems I was having in business were not because of some insurmountable challenge. It was never the competitor that was going to destroy me or the rogue employee who was going to just torch the culture. It was my reaction to it, right? It was my fear. It was my worry. It was my anger. Those were the things that were getting in the way of us succeeding. And Entrepreneurs Organization is really got a set of tools that help the entrepreneur understand how they're getting in their own way and then get out of their own way. And it's a magnificent organization. It's worldwide. There's 18,000 members in 230 chapters across the world. I have met entrepreneurs from every single country. I love going to the Global Leadership Conference because I usually find a table of people who look nothing like me, sit down, and I'm like, hey, what's up? And it turns out we have tons of things in common, and we're best friends by the time we stand up. It's great. But EO was kind of the next step in my journey. And when the opportunity came up to serve as the president of EO, which I did from July of 2023 to 2024, it really was a chance for me to work on Motiv and something else. And that something else really gave me a whole new set of skills. They made sure that as the president of the chapter, EO helped me get better. And that was really great. And then the opportunity came up for ContentLion because Oracle had made this announcement. So Oracle makes their announcement. And I said, well, I'm already doing two things at once. What's the matter if I do, two different things? So as my presidency for EO wound down, I replaced that with ContentLion, and I was able to do that. So it was never just like, oh, I'm going to go out and do four things all at once. It was just, hey, just keep adding things along as I go. And really the kind of the journey into content, the last piece of this, my own website, davidgewing.com, that's where I really write about customer experience. And what I found is that by sitting down and making that important but not urgent time to write about, about customer experience, about leadership, about the things that really make things wonderful, that has made all of the other stuff so much better. And I can reuse a lot of those thoughts and ideas. And that truly is something that only I feel like I can do in those companies. And that helps me get the multiplier that I'm looking for. So that's how I got there. That and lots of coffee.
But you make it sound so easy. And
well, it's not.
One thing I can definitely get is that you've been enjoying it, and it seems to be a lot of fun.
Funny enough, there's a book that came out last week. It's a fiction book. So I'm going to go completely off script here, not technology at all. But have you ever read any of Brandon Sanderson's work? He's a fiction writer. Like, he writes fantasy books, like with swords and dragons and stuff like that. My daughter and I love these books. And the reason I bring it up is one of the things that his characters discover in the arc of these books, and they're huge books, they're like, thousands of pages long each, is this concept of journey before destination. It's the idea that the journey matters so much more. Look, at the end of the day, we all die. Like, spoiler alert, that's how it ends for all of us, right? But it's what we do between now and then that matters so much. It's how we treat each other. It's how we interact. It's the achievements that we make. It's the things we do together. That's the journey, right? And so journey before destination is just such a beautiful concept. And I'm realizing that in my own life, I have to constantly focus on the journey and not just be so obsessed with the destination. And that has made all the difference.
Okay. That triggers another question. But before we get to that, I want to ask you for something that I ask all my guests, is related to career tips. And in your case, it is about, let's say, the customer experience. For two segments of people, one, those who are considering a career in IT or in customer experience. And the second is those who are probably in a mid-career and wanting to do something different, something new. but have not dealt with customer experience in a formal way. Do you think it is suitable for either of them, or how is it that they need to, or how do they need to prepare themselves to make a mark?
Yeah, great question. I would say, first off, everyone can be an expert in customer experience because everyone lives customer experience every day. You can't go buy a sandwich without having a customer experience, you know? And so if you're observant, you start to realize that customer experience is so much more than just the product, right? You go to the sandwich shop and yeah, you can be really lame, right? It can be just like, give me a bologna sandwich, they give you the sandwich, bye, you know, whatever. Or it can be this great experience, right? You know the vendor, you're talking back and forth, you're joking. I mean, think about Starbucks, right? Starbucks is a customer experience company. It is not a coffee company. You don't go to Starbucks for a cup of coffee. You go to Starbucks for so many reasons, right? You go there to work. You go there to hang out. You go there to socialize. You go there to interview. You go there to do these things. You go there to get the exact coffee with the frou-frou thing that you wanted exactly the way. But you don't go for coffee. That is not why you go to Starbucks, you know? And that's not why you pay 5 times the cup of, you know, the price. You go for the experience. So we all know customer experience. The advice that I would give to people, though, is you can't think about customer experience and product and think they're the same thing. They're not. You know, the world is littered with companies who've made this mistake. I mean, go back to companies that had trains in America in the 19th century. You know, the train companies were the biggest, baddest, toughest, nastiest companies. They owned everything, right? And now they're barely relevant. Why? Because they fell in love with trains. And what their customers fell in love with was going from point A to point B really fast. And once they stopped being the point A to point B solution, they were irrelevant, right? How many times do we all fall into that trap of becoming the train company? And you can't do that. So when you're thinking about customer experience, it has to be thinking about the whole customer and everything that goes around the product. And if you can do that, if you have an eye for that, then you have the first half of this. You have the intent side down, right? The impact side, yeah, it's going to require some study. You got to learn the tools. You got to make sure that you understand how they work. You have to, know the connections, depending how technical you want to get into the journey. You have to learn all sorts of things. But that is book learning. We can all do book learning too. But if you can bring that magic, then absolutely you can succeed in customer experience.
That's actually very reassuring. But I wanted to go back to the point you mentioned earlier. I'm sure the entrepreneur's journey, as you also indicated, is full of maybe ups and downs or unexpected turns, and you have some windfalls and some blockers and all that. And when you're also handling these different roles, or as you said, in a Motiv or ContentLion, or with the entrepreneurs, your blog and all that, do you have any practices that help you stay grounded?
I do. I have 2 of them. One is really simple, which is meditation. I'm a big meditation person. I meditate every day. I meditate multiple times per day. I'll meditate for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I'd love to meditate for a half an hour when I get the chance, but that doesn't happen nearly as often as I'd like. And so that practice, what I've kind of gotten to the habit of is I wear a real-time heart monitor and I look at my heart rate and I start my meditation and then I peak and I look at my heart rate and it just drops, right? Like it goes from 80 to 50, like in a minute or so. And I've realized that, like, first, that is just good for me. And second, it gets me to a place where I'm able to think clearly and get my emotions out of the way, because emotions are the enemy of good decision making, in my book. So that's one of my practices. The other one, I don't know if I have a good name for it, but I here's what it is, and that is I saw this woman. Actually, it was at Entrepreneurs Organization. Her name is Molly Bloom. They made a movie about her. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Molly's Game. Did you ever see this movie? You know what I'm talking about, Shiv? All right, I'll summarize it for you. This woman is on her way to becoming an Olympic athlete. Just by fluke, she's skiing down the hill and her ski catches on a little twig and her ski comes loose and she does a triple backflip and breaks her back. Smash. Then she never could quite make the Olympics. She goes off to Hollywood. She starts a illegal poker game and she runs the world's most high stakes poker game in the world before she gets arrested and thrown in prison. She made the movie after she got out of prison. This is all a true story. So I met Molly, and I asked her, I said, hey, listen, when you broke your back as an Olympic athlete, and then you tried to make a comeback, she did, and it didn't work. I said, how did you even get in the skis? Like, how did you do that? Like, you just broke your back, and now you're going to try and do high performance turns again. And yeah, physically, maybe you could do it, but mentally, how did you get past that? And she said that was an extremely difficult challenge for her. And she said, her dad was her coach, and she said, Dad, I'm having this voice in my head, and it's saying the ski's going to come off again. You're going to break your back again. And what do I do about this voice, Dad? Because it's causing me to hesitate. I'm pulling back, And her dad's words are the ones that carry with me to this day. He said, it's okay to have a voice in your head, but what's not okay is if you don't talk back to it. You have to talk back. You have to replace the negative ideas with positive ones. And for some reason, that just hit me like a thunderclap. And I've done that. So, every day when I do my meditation, negative thoughts come in. And I used to just try to just let them float away, but that doesn't work. Like, I actually have to arm myself and fight back. And when I did that, what I realized was, certainly there are hard truths I have to face. Everybody does. Things don't go the way I want them to. But when I fight back, the anxiety and the guilt and the robbing of joy that all of those things happen that rob me of enjoying the journey, all of that drops away. And that's been amazing. So those are the two techniques I use to really kind of fight against the darkness, if you will, and to stay centered in a sea of chaos.
Wonderful. On that very powerful message, thanks a lot, David, for sharing your story and your experience and some of the stories of good customer experience as well. Thank you.
Shiv, it's been an honor to be here. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We thank Siddharth for the music and Anita for promoting the Software People Stories.
If you like this episode,
Please subscribe on your favorite podcast client.
And spread the word in your network.
if you'd like to share your story,
Contact us at podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.